Well, I guess it had to happen sooner or later. We entice them in. No, buddy, this is just getting too personal. I'm not letting you live in here. Okay, all right, calm down. That will teach me not to leave the door open. Getting a little too personal there, but I guess it had to happen someday. I saw him sitting there in that doorway, and the next thing you know, I heard fluttering inside. I'm starting to wonder who runs this place around here. They've certainly voted that this is the new feeding station. They think that works out pretty nice, and I agree. Been a very successful slowdown day today. Been a lot of fun activity around with my cabin wildlife. I just took a look out here though on my grit situation, and it looked like the vote was 9 for my fresh gravel and 0 for the grit station. So I may have to get that wheelbarrow out and make another run up to the beaver dam for some more. Grouse. I've seen tame spruce grouse before, but I was trying to get this one to fly on that slow motion, and he just won't move. I mean, he'll move. This is crazy. The camera's about a foot from this spruce grouse. There's a lot of photographers would die for this opportunity. Again, early October, Martin's cabin, dark days, earlier in the morning. It's where you want to be. You want to get face to face with one of these little boys. Only a few days left now. It's quit raining for a little bit, so they're talking tomorrow. Well, they keep talking snow, but I think tomorrow it might actually happen. Now they're even talking up to 4 inches, 5 inches. They keep getting higher, but we're going to take a little walk this morning during this lull and enjoy some of all those trails that I've opened up. Quite a few years ago, when I created this wildlife opening out of a tangle of fallen balsam and willow, this brush pile was really high. I was tempted to burn it, but never a good time. And then over the years I've learned that it's just best off to let them rot down. It makes good mouse habitat. Then the owls can come in and hunt. There's no danger of getting down and getting some roots on fire and leaving a lingering ember there that's going to flare up 6 months later. So it just worked out best for all to leave it. But now the opening, you can see it's starting to grow back into some trees, and so next year I need to go out there and selectively cut it back, or it'll just go back into a big dense forest again. And one thing I strive for on these trails is to have some diversity for the wildlife. I had a lot of trails to choose from for this walk today, but I'm kind of partial to this trail along the Beaver Dam north of the cabin. It's going to help me out today because the water that the wind is knocking out of these trees won't be soaking me down, but also I'm just extremely partial to this view up here. These old cedars have been standing like that for the 35 years that I've been up here. Some of them are going down now, but this is the Beaver Dam that I've been kind of working with as the beavers push mud up on top for the years they were here. They've pulled out now, so the grass is growing heavy, but I was able to, by kicking the mud back and keeping some sticks off the top, we now have a nice wide walkway, and I'll come up next spring and maybe pull some of the more sticks out and work on a little bit more, but I think we're going to have a excellent passage going on over to some of the other trails. I am going to have some issues in this area. For whatever reason, the beavers, when the water was lower, they even started to tunnel through the dam. I don't know if they knew they were leaving or what was going on, but they've made some holes through here that they use to get to the other side. Obviously, that's going to fall in on me, so next spring I'm going to come up and take a lot of the wood pieces they've got laying around, and I'll shove in there and reinforce it to keep my trail integrity. This old cedar plank as we come down off the Beaver Dam. I've been walking on it for my 35 years up here, and I think some of the guys that had some homesteads back here were walking it decades before that to get by this soft spot. We're at a fork in the road again, but so many choices, but I think I'm gonna take a walk along Hawks Pond again. Well, the trail ahead looks nice now, but just look at all this pile of trees and brush that have been thrown off in the last years to keep it open. I have that rainwater collection system now at the cabin, but every once in a while I still need to go up to the spring up here and get some water. This is coming out of that spring. It kind of picks up steam as it comes through one area up there. It's been raining enough. There's a lot of rainwater mixed in with this coming out of the bog, but this stream flows with a fast current through here all year long. And that's pretty strange up in this bog country. Usually it's always seeping underneath, and little trail goes along the edge of this wildlife opening that I hope to get up here this trip and get it cleaned up, but it'll have to wait till next year now. This is one of the settlers' roads through the cedars. It's dense enough and dark enough in here that it's one of my trails I maintain that never requires any work. Most that ever happens is a small branch might fall across. It's nice and wide. They used to drive cars through here, I'm sure. It just winds around the cedars. Let's go out here and see what wildlife awaits us on the pond today. This was all dry when I got here 3 weeks ago, but about 3.5 inches of rain. Now you don't go anywhere without the boots. Everything appears quiet on Hawks Pond today. Really nice. The trees are still hanging on to their leaves. The weather's been such that I haven't had much opportunity to come out here and bask in the sunshine, but I knew it'd be wet today, so I brought a few pads along. I had all these plans, but I realized I left my thermos of tea at the cabin. Well, worse things happen. I did have some roasted almonds that I've been munching on since I got here. These last days we end up doling out, trying to use up items. As I take this break here on Hawks Bench, I look across at the beauty of those aspen and birch trees and how nice they are. I realize that the beavers are looking across too and thinking, hey, if we raise that water level a little bit more, we can get in there and eat them. And anyway, that's why they're here. They seem to revisit this pond quite a bit, but they really got to raise it up to get back into that good timber. This barricade I built out of fallen trees around this little, well, at the time was a small white pine seedling. It's worked out the way it's supposed to. Trees got big enough, the deer can't kill it. Now this is just rot away into the ground. Here's another nice white pine protected by the wooden barricade. And it's a good thing because I'm sure this is the parent tree growing up there, and you can tell it's dying. Getting worse every year, but pretty yellow up there, not many needles left. So it's nice that these few are going to be able to carry on. I knew there were a lot of bears around, but here they got me. I left this brush saw over here, and they have a liking for gasoline, and it's ripped my tank off and torn things up pretty good. Probably nothing I can't fix, but I'll have to make up a new tank. Tore that right off, ate it up. Here's the cap, but I knew they were around. I've had them paw out oil bottles over here at this site before, but this is the first time one ever tore my saw up. I had left the brush saw over here because I'd hoped to get over and get a little more work done with it, but the weather hasn't cooperated. Time to get everything back to the cabin. So the objective of this walk this morning was to come over and harness up with it and get it back under cover. I'm just a little bit too late, that's all. The rain's holding off, but not so tomorrow. Tomorrow's my last full day at the cabin, and I'll probably spend it packing up, but the weatherman is pretty much guaranteeing it's going to be a rainy and a snowy day, a lot of wind. We're going to head over into some of the high country for this afternoon's hike. Might be some hunters out, so I've got my orange on, and it's cooled down pretty good, so I'm taking a toque along too to put on if it gets chilly. If you've been following my videos for very long, and watched the comments, you probably realize I pretty much keep the exact location of this cabin a secret. Just keeps my privacy. I don't think there'd ever be a crowd coming back here, but it is a fairly remote cabin. But people ask me, why don't I drive my vehicle back to it? Well, we're walking right now on part of the main course to my cabin from where I can park, and you can see that there's no place for any type of a vehicle. But then the trail will open up and you'll be in little wider sections for a while, which makes for a very nice walk. This is a view of the bottom of a beaver pond that it's empty, mainly because of the lack of water this fall. Even though with 3 inches of rain the last few weeks, it has not filled up at all. You can see the remnant there, the grassy knoll. That was a huge beaver house. See the hole going in it, but normally they're underwater entrance. All of this stuff you see laying down here, that's the brush they'd gathered over the years and they stored underneath the ice, and this is the remnant of that laying here. What water is left here is teeming with very small minnows, but unless it rains quite a bit more here, I think their life is about to end. One other time when this dam went dry, I remember seeing beaver carcasses that had been probably drug out of the house by the wolves and eaten. They run out of water, they have no place to hide, and the predators can walk right in what used to be an underwater entrance. This big depression here was just made by the beavers, and all the rocks are exposed because they use their bodies to push all the mud and dirt up onto the dam to seal it, and it leaves behind all these rocks. It's sure nice to look up and see the tops of those big towering white pine up there, but you can see as the tallest thing around why they constantly being struck by lightning, and then that's very hard on them. This time I remembered the tea. You can tell Martin's been here. There's a flat spot for my cup. As usual, I started out in the high country, but I just tend to gravitate down to what I like the best, and that's these dark, moss-laden cedar. I saw something moving by my front door, and I knew it wasn't a bird, and I looked out and here this little frog was coming across. And it's in the low 40s, and I don't know where he's trying to get to, but I think he might have messed up. He could be in trouble, and I don't know how I can help him out. Another pretty simple meal. Just mashed potatoes. Corn out of the freezer. Fixed up our meat a little bit different tonight. So we did a little grilling tonight. So yes, there's a lot of meat there, but doing the inventory, I've only got so many days left, and I got a lot of food to eat up. See, I needed 2 of those pans just for tonight.